Social Services Committee to order. First thing is approve the previous minutes. Motion, Mr. Touche, second, Ms. Lockhart, all in favor? All opposed? Passed unanimous. Okay, now into current business. Only one item on the agenda, authorizing an agreement with Capital Region Workforce Development Board to assume the role of one-stop systems operator and amending the 2018 Albany County budget. Mr. McLaughlin.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thanks for having me. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Here to address this very robust agenda. We are seeking permission to enter into a contract with Workforce Development Board for the second year as their one-stop system operator. It is a revenue generator, certainly not a significant amount of money, but some revenue nonetheless for a minimal amount of work. We already have representation on the board. I am the representative for Albany County to the Workforce Development Board, but due to the unique circumstances of our region, we are not as active of a player as the other three partners at the Workforce Development Board. So this was an opportunity for Albany County to take a more active role and frankly to fill a need that the Workforce Development Board had that they couldn't procure via RFP on the private market through a provider, which was their original intention. But I'm sure you can all appreciate that finding a provider to do the limited duties as outlined on the summary sheet in your packet for $4,800 is not exactly something that anyone jumped at the opportunity to do. So that is what we're requesting.
Great, thank you. And can you go into more detail on why they were not able to find a private operator?
Yeah, so the federal WIOA regulations require that they have a one-stop system operator that has the duties as outlined. You have to convene the meetings, you have to work with the partners to determine new ways to serve employers in the community and things like that. So initially, the Workforce Development Board and their mutual staff developed an RFP and put that out. And I believe, if I remember correctly, they did it once or twice, and they just weren't. They did it twice, and they weren't able to get any responses. It's just not. I guess the juice is in the squeeze, for lack of a better phrase.
Nobody wants to submit a $5,000 cost proposal for $4,800.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, well put. Right. So they then approached us and said, you'll obviously be able to use the resources at the Workforce Development Board if you need, and we've gotten permission from Department of Labor to use you as your provider if you're okay with it, and that's when I initially brought the request to you folks last year.
And who was the provider in the past?
There has never been one.
This is a new.
This is new when they passed Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. I believe that's the legislation that it is called WIOA.
Okay. And is this, I know that the Workforce Investment Board, or Development Board, does this run through the city of Albany?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's a county program run through the city of Albany, that's correct.
Okay. Could you explain a little bit more about that, the way that's set up?
Yeah, so they're a provider in the community. Anyone who is receiving unemployment, they have to show that they're looking for a job. They typically go to that location. They have a relationship, obviously, with DSS for anybody who is receiving benefits. And if you've ever been to the location, they have a full range of resources at that location, career counselors, individuals who can set up any training or education that might be necessary for somebody looking for a job. Of course, they have classes related to writing resumes and interviewing skills, and they have computers if folks need to use computer resources and they don't have any of those at home. So they're a pretty well-established full-service provider right up on Central Avenue.
Okay.
Sorry, I know this is such a long agenda and I'm delaying it with questions.
No.
Workforce Development Institute is a state entity.
Yeah, that's different. I know what you're talking about.
But is there any interaction, because as I was looking through this, because I knew that WDI was interested in training people for the new green economy.
So they are. There's a lot of
installers and stuff like that.
There's a lot of overlap, as a matter of fact. Workforce Development Institute actually presented at the full Workforce Development Board meeting the last time or the time before. It was two times ago. Everybody knows Luce Grodders. He actually helped out at one of the meetings and took minutes. So there is a ton of overlap, and I don't want to say overlap because, no, there is some overlap. I'll call it overlap. Between these organizations, they all work together in coordination to help each other. In the full Workforce Development Board is made up of the voting members of the board are actually not the counties and city. They're actually appointments from those four entities. So we have four private businesses appointed to the board, and as does Rensselaer County, Schenectady County, City of Albany, and that is actually the board. In addition to all the things that I mentioned related to individuals looking for seeking employment, there's also the reverse. So let's say there's an employer who's having a hard time filling their vacancies, which is, as I'm sure you can appreciate, becoming more common. They actually can come to the Workforce Development Board and request maybe setting up a program specific to the needs of them, of that employer, to get folks trained up to take jobs that they have openings for and things of that nature. So it kind of goes both ways.
Mr. Bullock?
Bill asked my question, but the Workforce Development Institute operates on a county-by-county basis, an area basis. And what I don't understand is the difference between the institute and the board. And my second question is, does this save the city expenses, money, if we adopt this?
I can't speak to I'm not an expert on the workforce development. I'm not necessarily an expert on the workforce development board. I'm not an expert on the Workforce Development Institute. I don't exactly know that. I apologize, Doug. But I actually think I have the contact for the individual in our area who's specific to WDI, and I can send that to you if you want to have a conversation with him. In terms of saving the county, or excuse me, what was your question? Saving the city money?
Yeah.
So the $4,800 is actually federal money that comes to the Workforce Development Board. So it would then just come to us. So it's not a matter of saving anybody money necessarily.
Would this be an expense of the city if we didn't take this on?
No,
Okay.
no, because it would have to be subbed out. And we actually, to a private provider to do it, and it would just be federal funds that came to the Workforce Development Board and then went to the private provider. In this case, we got the okay for it to be assigned to us, should we receive your approval, because of our odd arrangement and involvement in the board. They said zero.
I like it better doing it in-house.
Well, it's actually worked out a lot better. It's been, frankly, a lot easier for the whole consortium of providers, so yeah.
Make a motion.
Actually, I'm gonna ask one.
Oh, okay.
One more question. So who with the county is actually implementing this program?
So you mean who's actually providing the actual services?
Yes.
So, okay, so it's the location up on Central Avenue is provided by most of the employees, not all, are provided by the City of Albany.
Yes.
But again, it's a county program, no different than Summer Youth Employment, it's the same thing. Summer Youth Employment actually runs through that office as well. In Schenectady, it is actually located within their DSS facility, and in Rensselaer, it is a different office.
But who's actually, because our role is to convene 4 3-hour meetings to assist executives.
Oh, so who's the individual in our?
So, yeah,
I'm
who's
sorry.
the-
Hi,
That's him.
So
Mike
that's
Bogdan. I work for the county executive office.
Okay, so you'll be personally doing these roles?
I have been, and I will continue to.
Okay, great. Okay, any other questions from the committee? Okay, motion to approve.
No.
Make a motion.
Failing.
Mrs. Lockhart, second Mr. Reinhardt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn,
I was.
second. All in favor? Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.